Okay, hey y'all. Consider this a very impromptu film review. I went to see Poor Things yesterday, and I just have to say that all of the people screaming that Barbie was snubbed, y'all are crazy. Y'all are actually crazy. I'm gonna tell you why. Bella Baxter, Emma Stone's character, is the feminist icon that Barbie was supposed to be. Clearly these movies are made for very different audiences. I understand that Barbie was kind of for everyone, from children to adults, right? And Poor Things is definitely not that. It is pretty graphic and vulgar and weird and off-putting. It is not going to be for everyone. But I feel like we have to acknowledge the similarities because they're damn near the same movie. Like, you have these two female characters who have basically lived their entire lives like sheltered in a bubble, right? Throughout the movie, you know, you basically see them like gain consciousness and go on like this journey of like self-discovery, self-actualization, like whatever you want to call it, right? Boom. That's like the premise of both movies. But Poor Things just does it so much damn better. Barbie is kind of like, it's like a shallow take on feminism. Like, it just is, and it kind of has to be to work. It can't get too deep. It can't get too critical. And at the end of the day, it's a Mattel movie, right? So like, you know, it was bright, it was nice to look at, good songs, but the message is weird, because what actually is the message of the movie, right? Here's the thing. If you're gonna put that big like, well, being a woman is so hard speech that America Ferrera gives in the movie, like, you need to be saying, bless you, girl. You need to, my cat, you need to be saying something. So when you consider that, you know, in the beginning, both of these women are living these really like sheltered lives, right? And you're supposed to be seeing them, you know, eventually like gain their freedom basically, and become the women that they want to be. So I think that like one of my problems with Barbie is that, you know, at the end when she decides to like come back to the real world and like live as a normal human woman, it just doesn't feel earned. And I think that's because we don't really see her like living under patriarchy and like the evils of patriarchy. We don't actually see it. Like, I'm not talking about like her, you know, getting catcalled. Yes, bad. Catcalling is bad. Ryan Gosling like taking over her dream house is bad. Like, but you see how it's done in such a goofy way, and it's hard to like take it seriously, right? Barbie is really trying to like humanize Ken. Ryan Gosling is like a victim under patriarchy too. Like, he's not a bad guy. He just wants to feel important and like he has purpose and, you know, appreciated, like, but he doesn't really want to like subjugate women and control women. That's not really, he's really just a softie at heart. Like, what the hell? Like, get it out of here. And then Will Ferrell's character, he's the CEO of Mattel, right? But he's just like a bumbling idiot. Like, how convenient. And Barbie, patriarchy is just like this abstract idea. You know what I mean? Like, you don't really understand who's upholding it. You don't really see like who's truly benefiting from it. And so there's not really a villain. There's no real like dissection of like, but why is the real world like this? Barbie is just trying to like dip a toe in, and Poor Things is just taking a plunge. It's just jumping in, it's swimming. Perfect analogy, because that's how I feel about Barbie. It's shallow. It is like feminism for dummies. I don't know. It makes sense that it's for kids, I guess. I think that in Poor Things, like, it is very clear, like, who benefits from patriarchy, who benefits from women's subjugation, right? Like, it's very clear, and it's the male characters. It's Duncan. Like, there are a lot of like irredeemable, terrible male characters, and they don't have a good backstory. They don't have a good reason why they became this way. There's no, villain origin story. Like, Duncan takes advantage of Bella. I'm gonna try not to give too many spoilers because I feel like people are, Poor Things is still at the movies and you guys can go see it. But Duncan's manipulation of Bella is just purely for his own like sexual pleasure, like for his own benefit. It's nothing deep here, right? Once Duncan realizes that Bella can't be controlled and she can't be shamed, he kind of doesn't know what to do with her. And I just find that so much closer to real life. And I think that's why I identify with it more. Like, this idea of like this insecure, like just nasty character who like has no use for anyone outside of like how they make him feel and what they can do for him. That's real. And also I would say, like, we spend time with the male characters in Poor Things, but they don't take up but so much. Like, this is Bella Baxter's story, period. The male characters in Poor Things, they serve to move Bella's story along, but we're not following them. When I think back on it, like, we spend a lot of time with Ken, and that's not what we're doing in Poor Things. This is Bella's story, and this is about her journey. And that's a perfect segue to like my last point, because that's what both of these movies are about, right? Like, the journey from where these women started, the lives they were living at first, which were so small, and them seeing like all of the possibilities and opportunities that they have as women. We love it, right? We love it. By the end of Barbie, she has decided to be a real human woman and live in the real world, right? The good, the bad, the ugly. She would rather live this like uncertain, roller coaster of life than to stay in this bubble of like Barbie land. And that is kind of like like, she still decides to do it. But the movie kind of ends right at the hard part, right? Her journey was just getting to the point of feeling like she was capable of doing life. And that's fine. But it is not nearly as satisfying as actually seeing Bella do it. I don't want to give too much away, but I guess what I'll say is like, with Bella, we actually see her journey from like infancy to adulthood, right? We see her like discovering her independence. We see her discovering her sexuality. We see her like starting to understand all of the injustice in the world, poverty, tragedy. We see her like reading and studying and kind of like grappling with all of these like philosophical questions, like, why am I here, and what's the meaning of all of this. Like, we see it all happening, and it's not heavy-handed. It's just, you're watching the movie and you're seeing her become this person and this transformation taking place. Sex is like a big part of Poor Things, right? But I think it kind of has to be, because if we're going to talk about what it means to be a woman in like Western society, we have to talk about sex, right? We can't really separate the two, because unfortunately, like, so much of like your humanity and your personhood and the way that you are treated and your options and all of it is tied to sex, and we cannot separate those things as much as we may want to. And so she learns very early on what sex means to her and her sexuality means to her versus what it means to other people. You know, we see Bella like learn what it means to live like under capitalism and that unfortunately for her, because she's a woman, that her most valuable asset is sex. And she basically has to decide what to do with that information. You know, like what's her relationship to sex and like her sexuality for herself. And then also seeing it as like a means to an end. And how do both of those things exist at the same time? But they do. And you also just see her throughout the whole movie questioning like these social norms and like this value system that she's forced to live under, right? You know, why is she being judged for being honest, right? Like, why is she being judged for being promiscuous? And she's able to do that the way that like a child would, because she doesn't know or understand shame. I think my favorite part of the movie was just like seeing her call out, you know, this value system that we all live under, right? And she's calling it out for like how ridiculous it is, and you can't really argue with her, right? And that's what struck me and was like so enjoyable to me. She's just like seeing these things and calling them out for what they are. This doesn't make sense. This is ridiculous. What gives you the authority to do X, Y, and Z? I'm not having fun. With Barbie, there's this weird disconnect because they have like, there's Barbie world and then there's, you know, our world. And Poor Things, there's just the real world that that we all live in. It's funny because that world, it's kind of fantastical, it's rooted in reality, but there are like, you know, it's kind of the future but kind of the past at the same time. And if you've seen it or you're gonna see it, you'll understand what I mean. But it's very much rooted in real life in a way that like Barbie is not. So I'm gonna try to wrap this up because I am not a video essay kind of girl, but I just want to talk about the Oscars a little bit. So on the one hand, like I kind of think that awards are a little bit meaningless because so much of like who and what wins like just comes down to like whatever the politics are that year, whoever is being favored by the Academy that year, and kind of like what ideas they're trying to push. Are they trying to seem progressive? Are they trying to, a lot of it is about that and not just about the movies, and that is a shame. But if we're going with the idea that, you know, the Oscars are about awarding excellence, you cannot put Barbie in the same category as Poor Things. You just can't. You cannot compare what Margot Robbie gave us to what Emma Stone gave us. You just, when you really think about like what Emma Stone had to do in this role, the performance, like, it was impeccable. I don't know what else to, I'm not saying that Margot Robbie's was bad, but the material, I was about to say you can't compare when you don't compete. Like, Barbie was good for what it was, and I don't want to act like I didn't enjoy it because I thoroughly enjoyed it. I haven't given it a second watch. I'm sure I will at some point, but Poor Things like made me think. I was thinking about it the rest of the night. I was thinking about it today when I got up, and I've been thinking about it enough that I had to turn my camera on and talk about it. And isn't that what like good film, like good art is supposed to do? It's supposed to make you think. It's supposed to make you feel something. And yeah, that's it. This is not my like usual video at all, but you know, I can get on here and talk about whatever I want to. So today, I wanted to talk about Poor Things. Hope you guys like this. Let me know if you've seen it. Let me know what you think. If you want to see it, I would just, you know, love to hear you guys' thoughts. Yeah, I think that is it for today. So I will see you guys for the next one.